So, yeah, thanks everyone for joining Show and Tell this afternoon. It's been a month since some of us will have met, although would have seen some of you in the test sessions as well. I think the focus for the session this afternoon is to give a bit of an update in terms of what's been keeping us busy. So specifically, the launch of the Keyed version 2 website. Also to chat about some of the kind of work that we've been doing with other stakeholders. So I think Warren's got an update on the LGA, and then I think I'll finish the session talking about some of the integrated testing that we're doing for some of the other products within Welsh Government and Digital Action Plan, and also what the longer term plan is for Keyed in terms of where we see the next release heading and when that can be expected. So as always, feel free to ask questions as we go along, and we'll leave some time in any case for questions at the end. So thank you, and I'll hand over to Corey.
Thank you, James. We've actually got Chris with us today. Warren is one of those people who is on his holidays.
No, I didn't do that, did I?
So, yeah. But anyway,
sorry,
that's fine.
Chris,
we're all the same. We're all the same person
terrible.
in the Keyed team. It's fine. Okay, so I am really excited in this show and tell because it's getting to my favourite stage of these projects where I can use this icon, which is, as my colleagues at Prague and Kershaw may know, one of my favourites to use. It's the rocket. It means that we have either launched something or we are about to launch something. And in this case, we have two of those stories to share with you. So what you can see on your screen on the left-hand side is the published extended alpha report. So this has been a long time in the making, obviously, but for those of you that prefer to read and digest content in that way of all the good work that's been going on since the start of this alpha, that report is now published and live on the gov.wales site. So I've popped the link in there. I can pop it in the chat as well when I finish doing my little presentation today. But in that document, you will find all of the learnings from the alpha phase itself. You will also find the priorities that we've talked through in various show and tells, but it's a good place, I think, if you're interested to go back and just digest everything. Some of the work that we've been doing over the last few months has been to make sure we're still joining the dots between what was discovered during that initial discovery through to the alpha that we took into the last part of last year and now into the extended alpha itself. And that document is quite a nice celebration of consolidating all of the findings and listing some of the plans for the future, which again, I'll recap in a moment. On the right-hand side is the Keyed phase 2 website, just a little screenshot of the procurement journey as it stands at the moment. So there's been a huge amount, again, of work going on in this space by the team, by colleagues, those of you involved in this call, also broader into the public sector in Wales and Welsh Government. We are almost at the point of pressing the big green button that launches the phase 2 iteration of the Keyed site. So hopefully that will be happening sometime next week. We'll confirm for sure once we've gone through all those final flight checklists that you need to do before you launch your website into the world. You will have heard on previous sessions that obviously we're not doing a big bang at this stage. The phase 2 iteration that we're going live with is very much a soft launch. So we're sharing it with you as people who are interested and keen to follow the journey of Keyed. There are a lot of improvements and iterations that will be coming off the back of this launch quite quickly up to September in the first instance and then beyond. So the team have been working in the background to plan exactly what that will look like. You will know from past conversations, or if you don't know from past conversations, then one of the areas we've been focusing on is the procurement journey. So we will be going live with the Route 1 procurement journey and following that through the various stages. Route 2 obviously seems the next logical choice to focus on, but we're conscious, and again, this is reiterated in some of the conversations we've been having about future planning for Keyed, that Route 3 is a ripe area for exploration. And I'm sure Chris will touch on that when he does his update about some of the work we've been doing to connect into those conversations too. So Things have been launched, things are about to be launched. We are going to take that user-led agile approach to everything that we're putting out there so that we can continually test and improve. But what I will say is that the launch of the phase 2 iteration of the Keyed site is going to give us a real opportunity now to find out how people will use the website in the wild. So what we've done is design things, we've taken on board all of your feedback, and we've got a pretty good idea of how we think people will use the site. But we're going to be plugging in analytics into the background to make sure we get that quant data to actually prove whether things are working in the way we expected. And we're also thinking about ways that we make sure we continue to engage with people across the public sector to find out how they might be using the website from more of a qualitative perspective. So getting that, first-hand feedback from people as it starts to drip feed through into an applied way of working. So I said that I would track back to where this all began, and I just wanted to show you what we are measuring our success by, really, from listening to the community. And again, you'll see this in the extended alpha report. These were the key pieces of feedback that we've used to baseline and benchmark ourselves when it comes to the user-centered design process for Keyed. So simple interactive content that's scalable and easy to engage with, guidance that's usable by all, not just commercial and procurement professionals. I think one of my favourite quotes from user testing of all of this process that we've gone through has been how Keyed can act as an outsourced brain for those in the procurement and commercial community in Wales who maybe are working more as solo members of the community and have to engage with lots of folks who have different levels of knowledge of procurement and commercial in their course of their daily work. So that is one that we've been really keen to make sure, how would this be used by all, even though we're designing for a specific segment of a specific community right now. Templates and examples of previous projects and case studies. So you're going to see these on the new iteration of the site. They will be peppered in the procurement journey, such as we've designed it. So everything will be attached to a specific stage of the journey, and that allows us to actually put the case studies and examples of previous work into context rather than them feel quite detached from the process itself. Written video and other media. So again, we're recording everything, we're keeping on publishing that. We'd like to explore it in more detail, certainly around capability and training and how we bring some of that great guidance to life that already exists out there by putting a bit of a wrapper around it from a key perspective, and insights into future trends. So again, Chris will do a bit of a playback of some of the interesting conversations we've been having about the future. So we'll keep you in the loop of what we're thinking about there. But for me, I think what's really key now is that we look at these statements that you can see on the screen in front of you, and that we continue to benchmark ourselves against these user needs. And certainly as you're going through the new projects that are being released, let us know how you think we're doing on this from your perspective. Are some of the feedback that we've had about making things simple, getting those case studies in there attached to the procurement journey? It's really good to track back to the origins of what we tried to do and make sure it's following through into these products as we release them. Because so often when you design something and you put it live, it's easy to forget about it as you move on to the next thing, and we want to make sure that definitely doesn't happen in this space. So please keep us honest on that, and we will do the same in terms of our reporting back to you on how things are going from the data that we gather once the site is launched. The other parts that I wanted to share with you from what has gone live is the Alpha report findings. So I'll just give you a quick update of where we're at with the 9 priorities that fell out of the extended Alpha report to guide the direction of the development of Keyed up until the end of March. They look like this. So you have the 9 in front of you now. In terms of this one, develop and establish Keyed governance and operating model, we've progressed this in terms of a couple of working meetings that we've had internally as a team to think about 4 key areas, really. So we are looking at things like the maintenance of Keyed, the governance of CEED, coordination of CEED, and the future delivery. And we've been doing, again, a mixture of exercises just to look at the wider context that we're operating in, benchmark some strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. So we've done that as a first stage. What we want to do, as is a spirit of CEED and our user-centered approach, is to take some of our thinking to you as part of a user testing group, which we're still running every Wednesday afternoon fortnightly, and get your initial feedback on some of the direction that we're shaping out. So we've got a number of options on the table that we'll need to present in September for wider consideration, and it would be great to get a session running where we gather some early feedback, particularly around that pillar of the 9 steps that we want to take forward in this extended alpha. There's a few other things that we've been focusing on here, so aligning with Welsh Government activities more broadly. James will talk a little bit more about that in terms of the policy mapping tool. We're also having conversations about capability and capacity and the frameworks that exist around that, and how CEED will better integrate with some of those developments from a Welsh Government perspective. Expanding the community, this is very much front of mind for me at the moment. So as we progress with things like service development around carbon reporting and emissions, or the policy mapping tool, we have actually started to segment parts of the user testing community to form more specific task-related groups that can look at these problems for a specific period of time. So they're not working groups as such. They're not groups that will be set up to look at these problems and opportunities for an indefinite period. We want them to be quite focused, quite controlled. But that means that we have an opportunity to refresh the pool of our user testing community. So what I would ask from the group that are here today, and any colleagues that you have out there who might be interested in thinking about this new challenge that we have, is how do we refresh that pool of participants for our user testing community? We've got a very engaged group who've been with us pretty much since the start of this journey. And now, as we set you different challenges so you can apply your expertise to the areas that you're most passionate about or have the biggest impact on your ways of working, it would be the right time to think about broadening out that offer to be engaged in the development of CEED services from a diverse group of folks in Wales. So I'll leave that thought out there with you. And if you have any ideas of that, or you know anyone you want to point our way, then now would be a great time to do it. So that is pretty much it from me. I just wanted to end on this slide, which looks at the procurement journey itself on the Phase 2 website. So this will be the main way that you navigate through the different steps of the procurement journey. So it's right up front and centre of the Phase 2 website when it's released. And as I say, we are developing at the moment out Route 2. So that will be coming in a further iteration, and thinking about how we gather together all of the brains that are currently thinking about Route 3, such as that we can at least put a stake in the ground and have a perspective on this from CEED, so that the wider public sector have a place where we can gather together all the thoughts and ideas and ways of working, particularly around a net zero focus, which is where we want to take our thinking in this area. So watch out for the date of the launch. We'll let you all know, and hopefully by the next show and tell that will be live and you will have used it in earnest, so that we can go back, look at some of the analytics data, and I can give you an update on those user needs that I showed you at the start. I will hand over to Chris, who can tell you a little bit more about the other pillars of work that we've been doing and our progress there, particularly around aligning with other groups in Wales who are thinking about the same strategic opportunities as us. And I will stop sharing my screen to do that.
Cool. Thanks, Corey. So last week we were invited to attend the Welsh Local Government Association's procurement network, which we've been doing, I think, constantly. Warren has been attending. Warren last week gave an update on where we were in regards to Keed and the next iteration of the website. But some of the discussions there were really interesting, and from a Keed perspective, on how we can help them go forward and how we can help as a community to make things easier for everybody. One of those discussions was around carbon emissions, and there's so many tools that are already available and so many more that are actually being developed by different groups across the UK, across the world, as well as in Wales. And how we could actually get to having one tool for Wales, and how we'd managed to pull that together. And the group was really looking at Keed and myself, who was sat there representing Keed, to see how we could manage to do that. There were similar conversations then that came apparent with different themes, like the competency framework. There's a lot of competency frameworks out there, and there's not one that's pointed in regards to suitable, well, only used, and everybody uses the same one in Wales. So is another area there within competency frameworks, and also the dreaded thing of procurement reform and that route 3, and how we can. There are lots of groups already starting to look at procurement reform, and how do we, as a group within Keed, pull that together so and be able to support that, and create something that's useful for everybody. Alongside those themes that came out was a similar one around having a single place for Welsh Government frameworks. Now, this is something that's been discussed internally at Welsh Government and with the Keed team. It's something we are looking into in regards to how best we can look at that. So hopefully that will be something that we can look at in the future. There was also a discussion that came from the Commercial Capability Working Group around understanding how the profession is now and their current capabilities, and try and map a baseline to develop, to have something developed as a baseline. And they're looking probably to put out a questionnaire in the near future in regards to that, so they can do that, and then look at how they can then create that capability framework that's going to be useful for everybody to use. And that's about it from that meeting. So thank you.
I think we've got one question in the chat there that's popped up from Helen. Chris?
Yeah. I think the question was, is it it's more whether you have access to them, but having one place where everything is. And I think there's a lot of frameworks that aren't on Sell to Wales, and it was the question of, is it something that could be done in Sell to Wales, or actually is it something that needs to be completed somewhere else where there's a comprehensive list of all the frameworks that are available in Wales to use.
Are you talking about other frameworks in Chris, as opposed to just Welsh Government ones like the YPO, WESPO?
So WLGA ones. So
yeah,
there's a lot of people are putting more obviously specific to Wales and the Welsh market, but ultimately Welsh Government, yes, put frameworks together, but so's WLGA, so are some councils that are doing their own. So actually there's no comprehensive list in regards to what's available out there, and actually is there a need for this constant cycle of putting new frameworks in place if there's already one that's widely available.
But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there's somebody from Welsh Government here, but I thought all contracting authorities in Wales use Sell to Wales as an advertising tool, and that all frameworks throughout Wales are accessible via the contract register. It'll tell you if they are all Wales ones that are open to others, or if they are local frameworks just open to that organisation that set them up. So I think, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I can easily access information through Sell to Wales and I can find everything I need. So I didn't think there was an issue in that regard. I'm not sure if others feel the same.
Yeah, hi Helen, Steve. Hi everybody. Yeah, I think what Paul would like to try and do is provide something that's a little bit more akin to, I guess, the nice glossy websites and the likes of Crown Commercial Services have. So I don't think it's the fact that the frameworks are not necessarily available, although I think we all feel that the South to Wales functionality could be improved. But I think it's more about making the information more visually accessible, you know, just providing a better experience. I mean, I think there will be people who use them on a regular basis. You know, it's like with any system who are familiar with it and probably find they can navigate around. But I think certainly that's my understanding, is really about trying to improve the accessibility and presentation of the information.
Okay, great. Any more questions from those initial sessions before I give a bit of an update on what's coming next? Okay, so I'll try not to go over too much what's already been said, but you've had a quick look there at the procurement journey in terms of version 2 release, which Corey's mentioned should be next week. So I think from a content perspective and a website features perspective, testing, accessibility, that's all complete. There's just a couple of operational considerations to resolve at the moment. And actually, it's been really useful process in terms of being able to define what the kind of quality controls should be for subsequent releases. And Corey mentioned there about the kind of governance and operating model. And so there are a set of conditions, I think, that we can run now against any product that's developed for Keed, whether that's part of the website or something else, to kind of ensure and maintain that quality. So it's been a really useful exercise and has been helpful in terms of getting feedback from other organizations in terms of the accessibility of the site, etc. So that's been really positive. In terms of the next version, we've kind of earmarked some time in September or October, and as mentioned, that will focus on Route 2, because that's content that we've already got available to us, that we've been able to test the kind of presentation of that or will be testing presentation of that in this next release. So that would be the logical order, is to move forward with that. I think before with the project, we've talked also about what opportunities there are to integrate kind of capability and leadership and kind of learning on the site. So as part of this next quarter, or at least the next couple of months, it's to look to see what opportunity there is to put onto the website what resources already exist in that sphere. So already we're linking events, for example, but there are existing resources, perhaps around the contract management training that Welsh Government provide, the RAP costing guide, and no doubt there'll be others that can be linked into the site. Also, it will probably identify some gaps, and we'll need to decide what we do with them. So gaps on a kind of a capability and leadership learning perspective. Is there anything that we can do in producing the content or curating the content to help with that? So that will be part of the focus. I think we also want to and need to, as has been really evident with the community feedback, is to be able to start moving some of the discussions forward on the high value procurements, procurement reform, Route 3, whatever you want to call it, because that's an area where there's not much advice available, and that's an opportunity for us to kind of do something there. So I think we talked about a working group for that, and with that working group, we'll look to have reps from central government, local authorities, health, the supply chain as well, to make sure that some informed discussions can occur on that and create something that's going to be valuable. It probably also gives us an opportunity to test another tool that's been in the works for a while on the website, which could be around online discussions or a forum of some kind. So that will kind of be the focus for that release, which will come later in the year. In terms of going back to the operating model, part of this early work has been how can we make Keed run? So obviously it's a project, but as these releases progress, they need to be able to be maintained sufficiently. And what we don't want to do is get to the end of the project and hand it all over in one go. So the discussions will kind of progress around what opportunities are there for the operating model. The governance, we talked about the quality and testing approach that's kind of been met, but there's a gap there that we need to plug now. And as we've got the opportunity for more feedback around how the site's going to be used because of the analytics, we've got to take this opportunity to really define what those performance outcomes and measures should be. How can they be consistently applied? And like Corey said, how are they providing community? How are they solving the problems that the community have asked to be solved? So that needs to be a focus too. Additionally, in terms of trying to integrate Keed with a Welsh Government digital tools, we're linked into the digital action plan, and I think the mention there of the kind of sub-test group around the risk assessment tool has been progressing, and that is doing so on separate to as a subset of our kind of main test group, and that's meeting on Wednesdays at 11. A call to action is any more people that might want to volunteer for that. That'd be great. So let us know. I think we've got. I've been told there's a good handful of people going, but the more the merrier, really. So if anyone's interested in that, that'd be really helpful. And then in terms of our engagement, we'll continue as we have been. So we'll keep our monthly show and tells. We'll have the Keed Rannies, of which, of course, we want to do an in-person event, and something we need to work through about how achievable is that over the summer period or later summer period into the autumn. How we refresh the test group, like we've talked about, and if we are going to set up a specialist working group to look at the Route 3 or high value procurement, but as an opportunity to kind of mix things up a bit there. And of course, we'll still continue to blog and get content out there. So I realise I've said a lot there in terms of some of the future plans for Keed, which all, they're all need to be agreed still and prioritised, and being an agile project, then things can shift around. But my intent is to produce a bit of a roadmap that describes that and kind of earmarks things that might happen over the next couple of months, so people have an idea of what might be coming. But any questions on that? Trying to think if I've forgotten anything that I was supposed to mention.
Just need to send out the invites to the launch party for the site, James.
Oh, that would be nice, wouldn't it? We should do that. So I can't see anything coming in on chat, and I can't see any hands raised. So I think you know where we are if you want to talk more about it. But yeah, hopefully next week we'll mark the release of this next version, and no doubt there'll be lots of feedback you can provide. But hopefully it'll be a useful resource, and this is just the beginning really, and got a bit of momentum behind us now, and yeah, looking forward to moving things forward over the next couple of months really. And thanks everyone for your continued support. Hope everyone has a good rest of the day, and yeah, summer holidays just around the corner.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Thank you. Bye.